What's up, players? Welcome to episode 82 of Ready Press Play, your weekly source for everything that's new and exciting in the world of video games. Every Friday at 6 a.m. Pacific or 9 a.m. Eastern, we discuss the top news of the week, notable releases on all platforms, what we're playing, big topics of the industry, and the games we love. If you want to write anything to be read in the show, go to ReadyPlayNetwork.com or hit us up at Ready Press Play on Twitter or TikTok. No matter where you found us, please subscribe to the feed so you can get every new show directly to your device as soon as it posts. And if you like it, please leave us a nice review. This is August 6th, 2021, and I'm your host, Louis Menchaca, and joining me today, as always, is my co-host, Mr. Daniel Lima.
Hello, Louis. How are you doing?
Hey, so, not gonna lie, I actually kind of feel like I feel a little unaccomplished. All right, I've been noticing this trend where I'm just now noticing a trend where I'm not playing
Okay.
games and I'm feeling guilty about it.
Yeah, you don't have to feel guilty about it. I feel like sometimes the circles that we're in, the people that we follow on Twitter and everything, where like they're playing all the new stuff that comes out, and they're trying to create content based on the new stuff that's coming out all the time and everything.
Yeah,
It may lead to like we almost feel like this kind of subconscious peer pressure of like, I'm missing out on that game and so forth. But at the end of the day, like I try to tell myself this sometimes, like games are supposed to be fun. So you should play you should play a game when you want to play it, when you want to have fun, when you want to have the leisure time. The thing that we need to talk about it though, which is my concern with you, Lewis, is that maybe you're not giving yourself enough fun time. You
yeah.
know, that
Uh,
that could be a thing too.
That's true. That's true. I was thought about playing like Metroid, The Return of Samus this week. I was like, oh, let
Mm-hmm.
me just dust off that 3DS. But then I spent my entire Tuesday just watching like Netflix and YouTube all day. So really, that's like I didn't really. I could have gamed. I just decided to utilize my resources to like preparing for RPM next week instead. So.
Yeah,
Uh,
no, I totally get that.
by the way, speaking of which, let me just do some quick housekeeping. I'm
Mm-hmm.
just gonna go ahead and put a little card right up here. Boom. And for the YouTube people, not to because we debuted on RPM on Tuesday on the Level One Gaming YouTube channel, and I was very happy. I was pleasantly surprised by the turnout. There was a lot of people talking in the live chat. Dan, you were even there, and we were just sort of like going back and forth and just talking to each other on the like on a text line essentially. But yeah, I was happy with the numbers we pulled in, and I'm very happy with RPM. And yeah, I think I guess I just wanted to say like I sort of left it ambiguous during RPM. I said, hey, I don't know if it's gonna be temporary or permanent. It I do want to lean like temporary. I know Dan off camera we've had a conversation where like Dan wants to vote that RPM stays on level one gaming, but I'm sort of on the camp that we go back to Ready Play Network's YouTube channel, but that's something that we're just gonna sort of decide later on. But for now, it's temporary. So
Here's the thing, Lewis. We got to strategize this, right? So, Level One Gaming, they got an array of shows in their great YouTube channel, right? That
right,
includes 7 different podcasts, I believe, that
six.
go up each
Yeah,
different day of the week. Six?
yeah. No
Okay.
Sunday. Sunday they rest. They rest.
Okay. So we got 6 different. So before we had one, like basically new. We had one of those six
Mm-hmm.
podcast slots. Now
Yes.
we have 2 of those 6 podcast slots, which means that officially we account for 33% of Level One Gaming's YouTube content.
Content
Correct.
output. Yeah.
So, so my point is, Lewis, if we take over like another show, like we can soon almost have like a majority
Like
share
50%.
of the or if we can have like three shows per week, and maybe we'll just put in like a 5 minute like clip on Sundays or something. Suddenly, maybe we'll have more of a say than fame, on things that happen there. And then that's the strategy, Lewis. It's like you slowly creep in, you buy a share there, you buy a share there. Before you notice, we've had a hostile takeover of level one game.
You know, what's kind of funny is actually when you mentioned that, like the first thing that thought of my head was what happened during Double XP, the Wednesday show, their flagship show, which by the way they get their highest ratings. During the Double XP podcast, I was in the chat and then I was talking some shit, and then David said they made the observation, the rest of the level one crew made the observation that uh, David Fame never tells me no, and to which Fame replied is like, man, Lewis has too much dirt on me. I can't tell him no.
I see. I love that. That can also be used to our advantage when it comes to the hostile takeover. You know what I mean?
Exactly, exactly. I love it. You're so scheming. All right. Well, anyways, we'll go ahead and we'll go ahead and table the Game of Thrones talk later on for off air. In the meantime, I just wanted to go ahead and just hit up some actual housekeeping slash an update to a story that we did last week. We talked about the Blizzard situation, and now it's like, speaking of Game of Thrones, it's like somebody just got walked out the set, you know. So Blizzard Entertainment president J. Allen Brack steps down. So yeah, that's some like, it's basically like killing off a character is how I'm sort of equating it to. So
Mhm.
yeah, I don't really know what else to say. I mean, I hope you read this article, Dan. I hope you have more to say other than, you know, we've sort of spoke our piece last week about, you know, all the bullshit that happened and how shitty it is and toxic masculinity and all that stuff. So is there anything else that you wanted to say to this?
I actually, unfortunately, don't really have that much to add. It's good to see that there are some consequences and things are happening. You know, and when we see that when we see that there is a pattern, right, associated with the company, where it's not like, oh, it's not like the, like there was like this dude that was an asshole, but it's more like there was a pattern of sexual harassment and all these other problems in the company. Then somebody, not only all the ones involved and guilty of it need to get out, but also you kind of need somebody at the top to pay the price as well. So in a way, like I haven't read too much into this. I don't know too much about this guy specifically or his involvement with it. But since most of the allegations seem to have been under Blizzard Entertainment, as opposed to like maybe other Activision studios, but really the Blizzard side was the focus of it, I think it makes sense that the president had to pay the price to an extent because you know every the buck stops with him. So in a way, I think this is good news, but you know, I'm sure that there's a lot more that needs to happen for change to actually be made in that company.
So, based off of what I was sort of skimming through the article, it seems like he wasn't directly involved with anything specific, like him doing his actions. But it does say that the lawsuit alleges that he knew about the behavior because he had received complaints directly to him, and he did little to
Mm-hmm.
stop the disciplinary actions that amounted to things like that were essentially a slap on the wrist, is what this article says. So, at least, so good for him for not being part of the problem, but also bad for him for not being part of the solution, especially when he is the guy on top and that can literally do things and make people's heads rolls. Instead, his head is rolling. So, in
Yep.
this article, it says that Jen O'Neill and Mike Ibarra will co-lead the company. So, hopefully, I don't know if that's interim or that's permanent, but that's what we have here so far.
Yeah. Cool.
All right. Next up, let's go ahead and I'll go ahead and kick it off to you, Dan, because I'm a piece of shit.
No, you're not. Lewis, I finally in games fair. I brought this game up like literally months ago. I was like, I'm checking out this game, you know, a little management sim about death. You're in this boat, you're upgrading the boat, you help the spirits move on to the next life, whatever. And you know, I've been playing the game weekly pretty much since then, and I'll play it like an hour here, 2 hours there, like very slowly. Turned out it was a pretty long game, so that's why it took me so long to get to the end after all of that. And I just have to say, this is a pretty special game. I would give it a 9. I think it's definitely one of those like cool like hidden indie gems. I don't know if I can call it like a hidden gem because I do think this game got some level of notoriety. Like it did get some awards, but I feel like even with the awards that it got, like I didn't hear people talking about this the same way that people talked about a game like Journey in 2012 or Gone Home, which there's a story about that later in the show. in 2013, and I feel like this game, um, while maybe not being as impactful as Journey, deserve to kind of be talked about um in the same echelon as these other games. So I uh, I feel like even when I finished it, and it had some lows, it did drag a little bit, but still I had fun playing it. I felt like I got into this loop where there's a lot of resource management, a lot of doing these like trivial tasks, kind of similar to when you play something like Animal Crossing. And ultimately, it does have these beats that kind of hit you emotionally, depending on the things that you've gone through in your own life, because you learn the story of all these different characters that you're helping out throughout the game. And I did feel kind of sad when I finished it, for number one, just like kind of like finishing the game and being done with that story. But also number two, the way the game finishes itself kind of hits you emotionally a little bit, and I feel like it will hit people different ways. And it makes me almost wanna spoil it actually.
Ooh.
Um, so I have a feeling that you will not play this game, Lewis. So I kind of want to spoil it for you, and then tell the audience, and then maybe they can skip to the next time code if they don't want to know about it.
Okay.
But why do you think that's fair?
I'll take it. I'll
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, so throughout the game, you play as this character named Stella, and she is working as the spiritfarer in this purgatory situation. She finds these lost spirits and she helps them. Like, you do some quests, you give them a house, and you basically help them, um, kind of come to terms with their lives and move on to the afterlife, supposedly. But you don't really know what happens. Like, the end of every spirit is you bring them to this door, to like this portal, and then they go away, and you have no idea what happens after that. That's the last you hear from them, right?
Right. So it's like you're
Um,
delivering them to the afterlife, and you don't know what happens next.
yeah, so it's
Right.
kind of like this interesting like allegory to our situation, ourselves on Earth, where like people die and we don't know what happens. We can believe some things, some people believe others, but we ultimately don't know. Um, Towards the end of the game, you find out that Stella, your character, is actually in a coma, and that she is at the verge of death herself. So that's why you are in purgatory alongside all these other spirits, helping them move on to,
Hmm.
whatever's next. At some point in the game, after you've taken care of pretty much all the spirits, there's one spirit that's left over, and he doesn't go away. And he's almost like, I feel like he's almost kind of left there, to be the one who tells you that it's your turn to go. So ultimately, towards the end of the game, you come to the realization that you, the player's character as Stella, that it's time for you to let go and to go to the Ever Door, like bring yourself to the Ever Door, and that's like the end of the game. Now you go to the Ever Door, and I'm here, like I've been through this journey for like 20 hours or however long it took. I've helped all these different spirits, and I'm thinking, all right, am I finally gonna find out like what's on the other side? Like, is Stella gonna go through the Ever Door? Am I gonna find all the spirits again? And then she goes through the Ever Door, and the game ends. Credits roll.
Of
So,
course. Yeah.
like, even when you finish the game, it makes it sound obvious, right? But like, I was expecting like something. I was expecting like a resolution, because I kept wondering like, oh, am I gonna see all the spirits I helped again? And I don't know. So like the game ultimately ends giving you that same feeling that you have in real life of like, you don't know, like I don't know what happened to Stella. I just know that she died, and I don't know what happened to all the other spirits that I helped. Hopefully they're all happy together in heaven or something. But it really hit me, like, having beat the ending of the game, like, you do this over and over and over again, and now you do it to yourself, and then it's done. Like, there was something about that kind of made me a little bit emotional. So
Hmm.
that's it. That's what I wanted to bring up, just because I feel like it was hard to like express my feelings about the game without kind of talking about that.
Right. No, that's fair. It almost kind of makes me wish that there was like two endings to the game where like you get to decide, you know, whether or not you go back into your body in your coma and then you like wake up in the real world, or like do you accept
Yeah,
death or not accept death kind of thing. That would have been like very like kind of like Pixar's Soul in a way.
yeah. Well, you know what? You motherfucker. I have not watched Pixar So yet.
Oh my god.
But that's on me. That's I feel like at this point that could be on me. That's fine.
Well, I mean, come on.
Um
It's literally you have family members with Disney Plus. You could have watched it at
I
any
yeah.
time.
Yeah, I could have. We Leah and I keep saying we're gonna watch it, but then we don't. I did, however, just start watching Loki, just the first episode,
Hmm.
recently. So, but that's a conversation for another time.
And that's a conversation for another podcast.
Yep.
All right. The other game that you played here, Trigger Witch. I've never heard of this.
Okay, so Trigger Witch is an indie game made by a studio called. Oh, please help me out here. I don't remember the name of the studio.
Let's see
Um,
here. It says East Asia Soft is the publisher.
Publisher
Rainbite is the developer.
Rainbite. Okay, so Rainbite. I think this is their second indie game. I think they made it like a Zelda, like a small Zelda like named Reverie a while ago. And Trigger Witch is available on a lot of different platforms: Switch, PlayStation, Xbox, etc. Um, the main reason why I heard about this game and I went to check out this game is because this game was written by the one and only Jono Peck, that if you don't remember is the guy whose podcast I was on, I think either earlier this year, maybe late last year or something. He interviewed me and he has this podcast that I'm a fan of called Putting in Work, where he interviews a lot of different people about, what they do in their jobs and how they're putting in work and so forth. And sometimes with some other stuff as well. And he's a really cool guy. And we've interacted here and there, like after I went on the podcast, like a little Twitter and stuff. And this is, I believe, the first game that he's worked on as a writer. His friends with the folks that made Reverie, and then we're making this game. And he was like, "Hey, can I join and help out? I would like to help writing some stuff." And then he ended up being the main writer of the game. He also did some of the sound design for it. So I kind of bought the game to like support him and the team, and to also check it out. But also because the premise of this game is very interesting, Lewis. In this game, it's like a down pixel art little RPG where you play as a witch who uses guns. But when I'm saying guns, I mean straight up automatic rifles, like shotguns, pistols, like all this stuff. And it's really funny because there's this like fantasy setting of being a witch in a witch world, and there's all the other witches and all of, like the critters from the creatures from typical like fantasy stories and stuff, but are just blowing the brains out with the automatic weapon stuff. And I just kind of started playing it. I went through the original tutorial, and just kind of starting to open up a little bit more of the story in the world. It's probably a short game. It's a little indie adventure, but I'm having a pretty good time with it so far. I think it's pretty dope. I think it's a pretty unique idea for a game that I had never seen before, obviously. And I just wanted to give it a shout out. So go and check it out. And I think that it would be nice if we could get Jono on the podcast to maybe talk about his experience working on the game. I feel like
That would be dope. Uh,
if I ask him, he might be down.
but like looking at the gameplay footage right here, like it looks like a bullet hell set in the world of Zelda. Like it looks like a Link to the
Yes.
Past. Like there were
Yes,
some
yes, yes,
shots
yes.
and a lot of like like hills and stuff that just literally like looks like it's sort of like copied and pasted, but also like in sort of like an animation style that sort of reminds me of like old Flash games from the 2000s
Mhm.
as well.
I should
So
have also been more. The game is technically a twin stick shooter. So you basically use one analog stick to move your character around, and the other analog stick to like basically rotate. And then you can shoot in any direction, and it's all about just kind of mowing through these waves of enemies as you progress through this little adventure. So it's kind of this interesting mix. Like I don't even think I've ever seen that, where it's a mix of a Zelda like a Link to the Past like with twin stick shooter. That by itself, it's already interesting, and then the setting and the theme of the game makes it even more interesting and unique. So, shout out to it. I'm only in the beginning of it, but I'm probably keep playing it. And who knows? Maybe we'll get to talk to Jono about it sometime.
all right, cool. I'll actually play a game next week. Promise you. All right, let's go ahead and move on. I feel like just like doing like a prayer or something. All right, Temple of Time. It's the time. It's the beginning. It's the beginning of the month, so it's time for us to sort of look back at the anniversaries of all of the big things that came out over the past years and decades. We do them in fives. They're the big milestones. So happy fifth birthday to THQ Nordic, actually. Uh, on August 2016, THQ or Nordic Games acquired THQ, or like the remnants of THQ, and then rebranded themselves as THQ Nordic. So
It is when I saw this, it's crazy to think that that was only 5 years ago to me because I feel like THQ Nordic. It feels like they've already been around for so long, and especially considering how many things they have their hands on right now. Like they acquired so many things. They have like I think more than 100 games in development, or like close to 100 games in development. They have all these different studios under them. There's like it's like THQ Nordic, but then they're like they split into like different like publishing arms, and then each one of them has like 10 studios. There's like this crazy kraken of a company, and it's crazy to think that it kind of all started just 5 years ago. So the way that they've grown is exponential. I mean, Nordic Games already existed before that, so the company itself is older, but I'm pretty sure that the exponential growth really started when they
yeah,
went after THQ 5 years ago.
yeah, and I remember like listening to a podcast when they were like, and it was announced that they were acquired and rebranded. So,
Hmm.
but yeah, so there's that. And then, so actual releases though, 5 years ago, we got the release of a game that I actually played, Batman: The Telltale Series. Episode One dropped on PC, PS3, PS4, 360, Xbox One, iOS, and Android. Now, I didn't even know that there were phone mobile games versions of that, but there it is. That's a lot
I
of
think you can
platforms.
play. I think you can play almost all the Telltale games, or a lot of the different Telltale games on mobile. A lot
Yeah.
of people play them on iPads. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember like seeing like the Wolf Among Us or something, or Wolf. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So there it is. That was the one I played that game the whole entire season. I never played season two, which I should. But yeah, and that was one of the few platinums I have. And next up is Tricky Towers. I only know it because it was a free game on PS Plus, but it came out on PC and PS4. I also played Overcooked. I'm doing pretty good. So I played Overcooked. Came out on PC, PS4, and Xbox One. And then there was a licensed game, which whatever, Transformers: Fall of Cybertron for the PS4 and Xbox One. Now also, now a game I never played, but everyone talks their shit, but not anymore so much. No Man's Sky came out on PS4 and PC 5 years ago. So, Dan, what a rebound that game has made. And number one, and number two, it's still relevant, which is crazy. Like I
Yeah.
didn't
Yeah.
I didn't think that would
Well,
ever. I honestly had no faith in that game, to tell you the truth.
how long did it take for the next update to come? I think the next update came out like just 2 years. Yeah, like around 2 years after it, and then ever since then, continue to update the game and keep it relevant. And yeah, it's always mentioned. I feel like No Man's Sky and Final Fantasy 14 are those games that are always brought up as the turnaround stories in the modern games industry of these games that released as a live service format. They were, you know, failures at launch that the companies were able to turn them around by just continuing to support them and add new stuff and fix the issues. And it's a it's a positive story.
I would say for every No Man's Sky, there's like three anthems. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I'm not entirely sure. Like, I'm sure companies want the narrative to be that No Man's Sky situations are more common than not, but I think they're
Hmm.
not. So, but yeah, there's that. And then next up, the only reason why I know this game, Bound for the PS4, is because Bound ended up getting like a PSVR update, and I think isn't that the game where like she's dancing around as she walks? So I think that's
I
the one.
actually never heard of that game.
Okay, and then there's Grow Up, which was the PC, PS4, Xbox One. I have that game on PS Plus. Never played it. And finally, there was the garbage fire that was Metroid Prime Federation Force for the 3DS. No one asked for that.
You know,
And
I have a question about that game, Lewis. Like, I wonder. because I'm assuming you never played it. Like
No,
you probably own it, but never played it. No,
not even owning it.
I. Oh, okay. I don't own it. Never played it as well. But with Federation Force, I always got the impression that the game was not necessarily a terrible game, but it ended up getting the short end of the stick because people really wanted something else than what they got. Like people really wanted a new Metroid Prime game or just a new proper Metroid game at that point. They're getting the weird co-op spin-off just kind of pissed people off and made them, throw all of their all their anger ended up getting directed towards Federation Force. But I think I've heard on podcasts and stuff that the game itself is like it's not great, but it's not a bad game either. It's like it's fine. It's like an okay game. But people hate it
People hate it because it's
because it
got the
wasn't
Metroid
Metroid Prime.
branding. But yeah.
Yeah.
Honestly, like it looked kind of fun when they the first time they debuted it was they didn't even tell you it was Metroid Prime Federation Force. They just showed you the PvP like soccer thing that they had going on at that E3.
Oh my god. I'm so glad you remember that because I didn't remember that. And what I remember actually is that they showed, you're right, they show like the soccer part. And then I started seeing those articles. I think the first one that I saw was at IGN which the article was titled "Did Nintendo just show us the new Metroid game?" And then like was talking about how like they were theorizing that that game could be a new Metroid game. And people in the comments were nuts like are you crazy, IGN? You can't spell ignorant without IGN. This makes no sense. There's no way this is a Metroid game. And I remember feeling that way. I was like, this is really weird. Like, who would look at that and think it was a Metroid game? And then they turned out to be right. And I wonder, like, to this day, I wonder if IGN already knew that it was the
Oh my
Metroid
god.
game. Um, because it felt at the time, I remember it felt like a stretch until they actually officially, showed more of it and
And no one at
explained
IGN
what it
got an
was.
apology from anyone in the comment section.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Next up was Deus Ex: Mankind Divided for PC, PS4, Xbox One, and short little side note. Inside got the PS4 port like a month after the Xbox One. Those bastards. Just want to say that because if I'd have known I only had to wait a month, I would have waited. But yeah, and finally, I'm gonna be saying this a lot, but Madden NFL 17 came out on the PS3, PS4, Xbox 360, and Xbox One. I was noticing a trend that for every August comes around, there's a Madden game. So yeah,
Well, shout out to Inside. One of the greats.
yeah. All right, next, let's see. Don't know how to. All right, whatever. You know what? All right. August 2011, 10 years ago, we have Temple Run for the iOS. Now, let me tell you this right now. I played the shit out of Temple Run,
I
and
think everybody did.
well, so you know what it is. Okay, all right. I thought it was more of
Mm-hmm.
like a like not very many people knew about it because it's an iPhone game.
Mm-mm. Are you kidding me? There's more people out there that know of iPhone games than people that know about PS4 games. I
That's
I
sad.
guarantee you there's more people out there that know of and have played Temple Run, Angry Birds, Fruit Ninja than people that know of God of War. But I understand. It's like out of your typical like audience and circles and stuff. But yeah, dude, I played the shit out of Temple Run as well. I mean, like I feel like 10 years ago, well, number one, I obviously do not have anything against mobile games in general. I work in mobile games. But number two, like I feel like a lot of the mobile games that we saw during that time frame were really cool because they were kind of figuring out like it was like this time frame where we're still like figuring out how to make mobile games. And there was a lot of like experiments with what would work and what wouldn't. And there were a lot of games at then that were really focused on like simple mechanics how can strip down this idea to its most like simple format that we can with the least amount of input and make that work. And I actually feel like we got some of the best mobile games then because of that, because we couldn't do as much as we can today. It made some of those like original mobile games really cool
Yeah,
to me. So.
mobile games want to be console games and have like virtual like analog sticks in there. And back then we were just Oh yeah, tilt the phone, swipe up, down, left, and right, and that's about it. That's all you needed to do.
Yep, yep,
And it
yep,
was
yep.
addicting. I had my score was somewhere in like the millions. I don't know if like 2 or 3 million or something like that. So yeah. Next up was Deus Ex: Human Revolution for PC, PS3, and Xbox 360. Interesting that they came out 5 years apart exactly. So that's cool. Next up is Madden NFL 12 for the PS2, which didn't even know that was a thing. PS3, PSP, Xbox 360, Wii, and iOS. Like, what the fuck?
One detail here: the 2011, August of 2011, the PS3 was 5 years old at this point, and we're getting a Madden on PS2. But that's not uncommon. Like for those like third party, annualized franchises, that happens a lot. We were still getting Just Dance games on the Wii until like 2 years ago. So
I think, from what I understood, is like the PS2 games were like international releases, like for Brazil, if I'm not mistaken. So
maybe I don't know.
at least for like the latter stuff, like they're like specifically like made for those
Hmm.
regions. I don't think they would have. We would have gone to a Walmart in 2011 and saw a PS2 version of Madden, but I could be wrong. Um, Next up was Tropico 4, excuse me, for PC, and a little tower defense game called Rock of Ages for PC, Xbox Live Arcade, and PSN. So, yeah. Anything you wanted to say about these
Cool.
games?
I feel like I've heard of Rock of Ages, but I've never really played it. And I know a lot of people love Deus Ex, but I never really played it either.
Same. All right, next up. 15 years ago, August 2006, Super Monkey Ball Adventure for the PS2, PSP, and GameCube. Dead Rising, the big exclusive for the Xbox 360. Pac Man World Rally for PC, PS2, GameCube, and PSP. Madden NFL '07, PS2, PSP, original Xbox, and then 360 and PC, Nintendo DS, Game Boy Advance, and GameCube. That is a lot right there. And then also, by the way, later that year in November, it got the PS3 and the Wii versions. So that's like
Oh yeah.
a lot. That is like damn near every platform under the sun. Next up is Star Fox Command for the DS, Disgaea 2 Cursed Memories for the PS2, and finally Saints Row for the Xbox 360. It's not too
I
shabby.
I own some of those games. I own Dead Rising and Saints Row and the 360. I got them, to kind of complete my collection or add to my collection. But I haven't really played those franchises either. So yeah, not a month there that really does much for me in particular.
I will say I do own Star Fox Command just for collection purposes. So
Hmm.
there's that. I bought it on eBay like way after the fact. Next up, 20 years ago, August 2001, Golden Sun for the Game Boy Advance. People want Isaac for Smash, but he's an assist
Isn't
trophy.
it isn't it Gino
No, that's
or
that's that's Geno's for like Super Mario
Oh, okay.
RPG.
Okay.
But yeah,
I get those mixed up. All right.
yeah, Golden Sun is a different like RPG, and it's got Isaac.
Mhm.
He's a sword character. He's like an assist trophy. He's got this big hand. Then there's Madden NFL 2002 for the PS1 and PS2. And that's it.
Liz, let me ask you, what is it with Smash Brothers fans for like about begging for characters that are completely irrelevant? Like and I say this like in the nicest way possible. Like a character that was in the game Golden Sun for the Game Boy Advance 20 years ago. I've heard of it. Like I've heard of the character being asked. Like I know that it's up there. It's like top 10 asks for Smash Brothers. But why is it like I feel like there's probably at least 100 characters that are more like relevant nowadays to be that could be added to the game than a character from a random RPG for the GBA from 20 years ago.
I think the spirit
So
of Smash
where
tends
do you
to.
think where do you think that comes from?
I think the spirit of Smash tends to lean more towards legacy and history and like video game museum.
Mm,
So things like someone like who's irrelevant, like Ice Climbers, who's only had one game for the NES, gets their moment to shine. I think that's what it
yeah.
is sort of. I think as much as Smash Brothers is a marketing machine, for relevant characters, and cross promotion, I think that's sort of like kind of gears towards more of using the dark side of the Force, whereas like the light side sort of tries to like be all about video game history and preservation and more of like a I don't know like a light, I guess is how I don't know how to explain that feeling, you know.
No, no, that makes sense. So it's so like the fans are maybe looking for those more like obscure, old, abandoned Nintendo characters, and they want to see them like come back and
And
smash like they
they get their
with
shine.
you know
Yeah.
with Mr. Game and Watch and Ice Climbers and other characters like that. Fair enough.
Yeah, and whereas like
I'll
if you
take
put
it.
like Fortnite Jonesy on there, then it's just another marketing machine, and that's kind of
Right, right,
like,
right.
yeah. But anyways, by the way, speaking of which, I just want to throw this out there. Madden NFL 2002 only came out on two platforms, which is insane because the Xbox had yet to launch because the Xbox launched in
Oh,
November, and like Nintendo only had what like the GameCube didn't come out till later that year as well. So the N64 irrelevant. Like basically, EA had no choice but to only use those two platforms. And by the way, I own Madden NFL 2002 for the PS2. So yeah.
interesting. Cool.
And finally, I have Mario Kart Super Circuit for Game Boy Advance. I have that game. I think I might have put it on a previous Temple of Time, and that was probably because of a Japanese release, but it came out in North America 20 years ago.
Fair enough.
Next up, we have August 1996 was 25 years ago. Starting things off, Valve was founded on
Damn,
August 24th. Yeah,
that's crazy.
let that sink in. Next up,
Where
oh,
what was Valve's like first product? Do you know?
I have
Like
no idea.
I kind of want to look that up,
Go for it.
but keep
But
going.
yeah, like I just want to say, like Valve, like if Valve was founded, did they like create Steam right away, or did they? Because like I don't even know, but
No,
whatever.
so I'm pretty sure Steam was created as a like as the app to download like Half-Life.
Oh,
It was a means to an end. Like, and it's funny because back in the day, this used to happen with like almost every game, where it was like for PC games at least, where it's like in order to get the PC game, either you would just download an executable, or you would have the app from the company, and then you would use it to get that game. And then if they ever made a second or a third game, then you would keep using that app. And so that we had like all these different. I mean, we didn't even call them apps at the time, but you had all this different software installed if you're a PC gamer, like I used
yeah,
at
and
some point.
every single one of them had their own individual icons.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. And you had like all this stuff, and then you go in and like oh, if you want to download a new Blizzard game, you go into the Blizzard app and you do that. And then some companies have kept doing that, and then but Steam has kind of swallowed a lot of the market, and a lot of people consolidated into Steam
hmm.
now, Epic Game Store, etc.
All right. So while you look that up here, Tekken 2 came out on the PS1. I don't know if I have that game. I know I have Tekken 3 for the PS1. And then one of the things, these little interesting little tidbits, is that every single one of the games I'm about to list right now all came out on August 31st, which is I don't know why they wanted to release like no games in August, and then all of them come out on the last day of August. The Elder Scrolls 2 Daggerfall came out on the PC. The Die Hard trilogy came out on PC, PlayStation 1, and Sega Saturn. Tetris Attack came out on Super Nintendo and Game Boy. And Madden NFL 97 came out on the Super Nintendo, the Sega Genesis, PS1, PC, Sega Saturn, and Game Boy.
Damn. I wonder is Madden like well, no, I was about to say something stupid. I was gonna say, is Madden like one of the longest running franchises in video games? But then, obviously we got Mario and Metroid and all that stuff. But I was thinking of like annualized
Honestly, I would
is
probably
Madden
bet that Madden is probably like the longest series or franchise to get a game every single year without missing a beat.
Yeah. Yeah, I could see that. Valve's first game was Half-Life, released on November 19, 1998.
2 years.
Yeah. two
Okay.
years after they were founded. Yeah.
Next up is August of 1991, which was 30 years ago. On August the 23rd, it was the North American launch of the Super Nintendo, and the launch titles include Super Mario World, F Zero, Pilot Wings, Gradius 3, and Sim City. And Super Mario World was a pack-in game, and it was one of the best games for the entire generation. And it introduced the world to my beloved character Yoshi. So, yeah, that's a
Two
pretty.
games here that I have a lot of affection for. Obviously, Mario World, which I'm a big fan of, and I used to play a lot as a kid. Um, but also SimCity. And I don't remember if I ever played the original SimCity, but the franchise as a whole. Back in my kid, preteen, and teen years, where I played a lot of games on PC, I played the shit out of SimCity. I think SimCity 2000 was the one that I played the most, and that game was a lot of fun.
I just wanted to say that SimCity, I believe, was more of a technical achievement because it was the
Hmm.
1989 game that was a PC game, and the fact that they managed to port it to the Super Nintendo was like sort of like a haha, like graphics
Yeah.
power and all that stuff. And also, just wanted to say, I wanted to give a shout out to like the lineup because there's a lot of genres that are being spanned across from like Super Mario, being like, your top tier like platformer, F-Zero being like your racer, your like hardcore racer, and then Pilot Wings was basically a glorified tech demo for like the Mode 7 graphics and like, the 3D of the 3D-ish effects that they can pull off. And I'm not sure what Gradius is, but I'm pretty sure I have that game somewhere in my drawer. I think I bought it as part of like my little lot or something. And
Hmm.
yeah, so just shout out to that lineup. That's it's
Gradius, not this one, but the first Gradius was one of the few games that got a 3DS, like 3D Classics release. I think, like they were doing that line where they're doing, like Kid Icarus and turning it into 3D, and they did it for like five different games, and Gradius was one of them.
okay. All right, now flashing back 35 years ago, August of 1986, Taito is, I guess, the name of the company. They released a game called Bubble Bobble for the
Mm.
arcade, which is like an iconic franchise, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it's a classic. I feel like I've played it. I definitely played it at one point, but I don't know where. Like, think it's on the NES Classic. This game later got ported, or other games in the franchise later got ported to other systems, and I think there might be at least a version of it on the NES Classic or the SNES Classic or something.
Like I've seen this artwork before right here. Like I know I've
Yeah.
seen it. So yeah, just interesting stuff there. Fine. Also, happy birthday to Samus.
Hmm.
Metroid came out on the NES back in August of '86. And finally, Electronic Arts, EA, they released an open ended space exploration adventure game called Starflight, which would go on to sell 1 million copies. It was the No Man's Sky of its day. All
Cool. Well,
right.
obviously, we got to talk about the beginning of the Metroid franchise.
Yeah.
That has, for a bit now, been kind of pushed to the side by Nintendo. But hopefully, is about to get some legend. If we get like Metroid Dread this October, then we get Prime Trilogy on Switch in like April or something, and then we get Prime 4 like next fall, like next year or something like that. That would be awesome. Hopefully, they can pull something like that to kind of compensate the many years now that we've had since we had a Metroid game. I think well, we had Samus Returns, but other than Samus Returns, the last one before that was Other M in 2011, uh, which I didn't like. So,
All right. Next up, 40 years ago, in August of 1981, Taito, the same company as aforementioned before, they released an abstract twin stick shooter called Space Dungeon for the arcade. And August 12th, the IBM personal computer is released for the price point of 1,565 US dollars, and it had 16K RAM. I'm assuming 16 kilobytes of RAM,
yep.
no disk drive, and 4-color CGA graphics. Wow.
Mhm.
That's a lot of money for so little performance. Sure.
It's funny to think like not only how processing power and memory and all that stuff has evolved and become so much cheaper, but also how that has affected the development of games and what kinds of people can work in games almost because at that time frame or like in the 80s, the 90s, that were programming video games had to be very like very 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 technical and savvy about exactly like how they're using the memory and how they can make everything use the least amount of memory as possible and all that stuff. And nowadays, you have a situation where somebody can jump on Dreams and make a game with very little technical knowledge, because not only because in the case of Dreams, another company already kind of dealt with some of that, but also because the more power we have, the easier it gets, because the least you have to worry about as far as that stuff goes.
True. Not to mention, like even back then, like $1,500 is a lot for my standards right now, and $1,500
Hmm.
for like $1981 would have just. It's like I don't know what
Oh
the
yeah,
inflation is right there, but that's like hella gatekeeping. I'd imagine like the earliest game developers and programmers were probably people that were like financially well off to begin with and had like money to
oh
invest
yeah,
in, you know, learning
yeah.
like
This will be like, I
these
think this will
things.
be like 5 grand now.
Yeah, yeah, I'd say about or like the cost of a MacBook these days. All right,
Hmm.
next up, and finally, just rounding it out, 1976, 45 years ago, it's the dawn of gaming. Um, for the arcades, Sega releases a game called Man T. T, also known as Motocross. It's an early motorbike racing game which uses pseudo 3D, forward scrolling, third person perspective, similar to Road Race. It also introduces haptic feedback, causing the handlebars to vibrate during collisions. Sega Gremlin, I guess that's the name of the company at the time, they would later rebrand the game as Fawns. So I actually saw an image of the arcade, and it's so like prehistoric looking, but I can see the handlebars and everything. I was like, damn. So yeah, that looks cool though. That's interesting that they even had like vibration. I would say people like no vibration and haptic feedback. Like by N64 standards with the what is it, the Rumble Pack and stuff. But
Hmm.
yeah, so interesting stuff there.
I I never played that game. I don't know if I've seen it, but I do want to bring up that I was pretty much spot on with the inflation thing for the other one, because I just used an inflation calculator, and $1,565 in 1981 would be the equivalent of $4,677 today. So close to 5 grand. Yes.
Jeez. All right, let's go ahead and I'll just closing thoughts real quick. I am other than the Super Nintendo launch, I'm kind of sort of unimpressed. I'm not I'm just gonna say I feel like there were stronger months in the past. I guess with August must not be like a good like marketing time to release games and stuff. So
Yeah, it's back to school month, right?
yeah, pretty much. All right,
Yeah.
we'll go ahead and move on to the battle bus. Dan, I gotta tell you this. You are way better at keeping up with Smash and Fortnite news than I am because I'm not gonna lie, I actually was surprised. And like, I'm hearing about these headlines first from the doc. So just throwing that out there.
The funny thing is that I usually just add these things in because I think you're going to talk them. It's like, oh, here's some stuff for Lewis to talk about on the show. And then sometimes I don't even necessarily have any thoughts. So it's good to know that you're not even following this, right?
Well, okay, so first up, the first thing that he put on here was the big house. The big house is skipping another in-person event. Now I knew about what happened last year, but I did not know about the big house not happening this year. It got canceled last year because they were gonna do online last year, but then Nintendo put a cease and desist on them, so that happened. Um, the other
Mm.
thing is that this article is covering is they we're in a position where like when it comes to like venues and conventions, you have to like reserve it so far in advance. At the time when it was in February where there was their deadline to reserve it, they ended up saying, well, we don't know the future. The COVID was happening, so they basically knew since February that they weren't going to have an in-person event. So yeah, they're just now telling us now. So they say in their little tweet here that they're planning on doing the in-person event in 2022. So this tweet and this new article has no mention as to whether or not there will be a online event, but I doubt there will be simply because last year's online event got canceled. So That sucks. Really, it does. The Big House is one of the premier tournaments for Smash. Next up, and this is something my niece just texts me. Like my niece doesn't, text me. Okay, like almost ever. Like I never get a text message from her. Not even a good morning. She's like, "Hey, can you gift me the Ariana Grande skin?" And I'm like,
How
"Fuck
old?
you." So yeah,
How
Fortnite.
old is she?
Ariana Grande coming to Fortnite. There's a concert this weekend. I believe it's Saturday, and yeah, her cosmetic skin is already on sale on the item shop like right now as we record this podcast. So yeah, uh, do you is this appealing to you in any way? This skin?
Um, I do like Ariana Grande's music. I don't, I like, I'm not a hater or anything. Leah is actually really into her. But whenever the songs come up, like I don't mind them. I'm like, oh yeah, this is cool. It's interesting to see how like she's kind of like evolved, like which this often happens with artists where it's like art like all innocent and cute and romantic, and they eventually get to that phase where it's more like, no, like I'm hot and like I know that everybody finds me hot and I know that I'm hot and gonna like monetize that. And so she makes a lot, like nowadays I feel like she makes a lot of songs that I call like sexy and like they're like cool to listen to and shit like that. So I kind of like the vibe that she's been on recently. But I also, to be honest, like I've always like begrudgingly or not, or just what is it called, guilty pleasure or not, kind of enjoyed her music. So that's kind of cool. I do have some V Bucks that I've been sitting on for a while now because I like almost never spend it, and I have been playing the game and going through the battle pass and that stuff, and I got the Fortnite crew for a few months, so I will think about it. But I still don't know if Ariana Grande is really what I need to spend my V Bucks. But she's also doing the concert and stuff, so maybe I'm gonna try to check that out because I've never had that kind of experience in Fortnite yet.
Yeah, okay. Virtual concerts are really cool, especially when you're like in a lobby with some other people and you're talking and stuff. So it's like hanging out with some
Mm.
friends. It's like, oh yeah, let's go to the Ariana Grande concert, and then you sit on your couch or something. But yeah, I've only experienced it once with the Travis Scott concert. So all right, we'll go ahead and move on to the next bit here. It says, let's see. Okay, this headline reminds me of like back in the day in the '90s where they were like, will somebody please think of the children? Like that kind of thing. Like this kind of like gets me like one of those kind of like, sit down, shut up. No one care. No one's gonna listen to you. It says here, Jose Mourinho says Fortnite is a quote nightmare and keeps his players up all night, and the next day they have a game. So I'm guessing who is Jose Mourinho? Like I let's see okay,
Okay,
go for it.
so
Give me the TLDR.
ho- ho- yeah, so Jose Mourinho is like one of the top soccer coaches in the world.
Okay,
He's like a big deal. I think he was before Roma. He was in Tottenham, which is a big team in England, and I think now he's in Roma, like obviously in Italy. I don't follow European soccer as much as I follow Brazilian soccer, but I know that like this guy is a big deal. He's like the number one coach that most people would recognize as Guardiola, Pepe Guardiola, but he's up there. Like this is the kind of guy that it's always kind of on the headlines when it comes to people that follow soccer and stuff. So I thought it was funny, as somebody that likes soccer stuff, to see that this guy has an opinion about Fortnite. And basically, it says in here in a rapid response Q&A video shared on the football team's social media channels, during which the boss gave his opinion on a myriad of things, from life in Italy to his views on Instagram. Mourinho said that his players spend too much time on Epic Games' fan favorite Battle Royale, staying up all night, and implying it affects their performances on the field the following day. When asked what he thought of the game, he smiled and said, "A nightmare. Football players, they stay up all night playing that shit, and the next day they have a game." You can watch the full brief interview below. They have a link. But it's kind of funny. There's, you know, in the soccer world, and I think this is kind of true to the sports world in general, a lot of times there are conversations about like oh, like that team did bad because the players, went out all night after, before the game or whatever. They were drinking the night before that affected their performance in the field and so forth. And there's all kinds of stories like that that go around. And I think it's funny to think that this new generation of players that we have right now, maybe the biggest concern is that they're playing too much Fortnite and not focusing on the game.
Oh my god. And I bet they're all gonna be eager to sign contracts to be have their likenesses be in Fortnite like at
Oh
any
yeah.
any moment. But yeah, that's interesting. Okay, so that is interesting because like when I read the headline about being a nightmare, that's like the first thing I thought is like, oh, just some guy with a stick up his ass. But this is interesting
Mhm.
because now with that extra added context, I can see how that is an issue, especially when you have
Mhm.
multi-million-dollar deals with players that are like not taking their job as seriously as you want them to take. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I can sort of see that, and also just even on a micro level, like my brother is always telling my nephew, like his son, was like, "Oh, you need to go to sleep, to go to school, or get
Mhm.
down." But whatever. Anyways, let's go ahead and move on to the news. Dan, you got some very sexy headlines here that like make me want to like just dig deep in here. And I gotta say, the very first headline, not as impressive as you may think. All right, we'll give you some context here. Nintendo Switch nears 90 million despite a slowdown in sales. So the console has surpassed the lifetime sales of the PS3 shipments and has the Wii's record in its sight. So Nintendo has reported that the Switch hardware sales data as part of its first financial results, the quarterly financials. The company said that on Thursday, the Switch had sold in 89.04 million units as of June 30th, which is up 4.45 million units since March 31st. In terms of actual sales to customers, sell through exceeded 85 million units at the end of June 2021, compared to over 81 million units at the end of March. Nintendo said shipments for the entire Switch family of systems fell 21% year over year. The total was made up of 3.3 million, 3.31 million units of the Switch Lite. Sorry, of the flagship Switch, and only 1.14 of the Switch Lite. While the sales of the flagship Switch were actually up year over year, the Switch Lite sales declined compared to a year earlier when Nintendo had a quote relatively plentiful inventories for Europe and North America, and unit sales were high. Interesting. It seems like people don't want to buy the Switch Lite. But, anyways, yeah, I actually wanted to say that the reason why I was actually sort of like alluding to this is that the software sales are also down as well. So that's it's kind of sort of like telling me that maybe the Switch is sort of losing relevancy. Uh, I'll pull up the software sales here momentarily, but Dan, go ahead and hit me with your thoughts.
Okay. So the Switch started slowing down a little bit. But we need to take into account that the Switch was a car driving 100 miles an hour that has now slowed down a little bit to like 90 miles an hour, right? It's still selling really well. It's still outselling the competition month after month. I think we're seeing the signs of a console that, I don't want to call it fatigue, but it has been in the market for over 4 years. There's new stuff, new kids on the block. People are looking, to the PS5. People are looking to the Series X and all that stuff. And the Switch is still outselling them, but maybe they're closing the gap a little bit because over the last few years we were really at the end of the PS4 and the Xbox One generation, and those consoles had been slowing down. So we're getting to a situation where yes, the Switch has probably been slowing down a little bit. It will probably continue to slow down. We are not going to see the same jump over the next few months than we did in the past other time periods. In case the Switch still has a leave though, that the Switch still has major games in development that could be system sellers. that will be coming out likely next year. We got the new Pokemon game coming out early in the year, which could be, revolutionary Pokemon game that might push some people over the edge that may not have bought the Switch yet. The Switch has Breath of the Wild 2 coming out next year, which once again will likely be, a game of the year, a big game that people are looking for. And sooner or later, we are going to see a new 3D Mario game. It's kind of surprising that we haven't yet. People are also waiting for the possibility of a new Mario Kart and all this stuff. So the Switch still has these things up their sleeve to potentially bring the tempo back up. Um, However, I will also say they don't even need that, because even with the slowdown, they're still selling well, they're still outselling the competition, and they're still on track to surpass the Wii that so far had, success for Nintendo as far as home consoles. I think the Switch is fine.
Okay. Well, so I went ahead and pulled up the actual the units, the software sales. So the actual top 10 unit or top 10 games that were sold are actually in the exact same order. So Mario Kart 8 Deluxe still holds the number one spot at 37 million units sold. Animal Crossing New Horizons has number two at 33 million. Smash Ultimate has number three at 24 million. So it's the same exact order. I looked at the last quarter and this quarter, and the only thing that changed is that the number 10 spot got completely replaced. So New Super Mario Brothers U Deluxe was number 10, and it's now at Ring Fit Adventure. It has 11.2 million units sold. And I just wanted to. The reason why I was talking about software sales are down is because I actually looked at. I went and pulled up Reddit here, and it's got the official count from last quarter to this quarter, and with the exception of the top two, a majority of these games only sold like a million or less between last quarter and this quarter. So could be a situation where it's like, penetration, whatever. It's like, anyone who wanted to buy Breath of the Wild is pretty much already going to buy Breath of the Wild. So you're not going to get like 2 million sales in one quarter. But just sort of throwing that out there, like, these guys are like at the top of the heap, but they're also not like, going to grow
Yeah,
your base.
we're still seeing those games on NPD, by the way. Anyway, and I also want to bring up. You also have to take into account when we think about the slowdown in sales, what the last 12 months of Switch was as far as releases go. Like, what was this game that came out over the last 12 months on the Switch? I can't even tell you what it is. Was it like maybe like Super Mario? I can't remember when the Mario collection came out, but that was one of them. And then obviously we had Hyrule Warriors, which I don't think a lot of people care for,
Mario Golf.
comparatively to the rest. Mario Golf, right? So we had a lot of like these B C tiers. Once we start hitting the A tiers again, I feel like we're gonna see the numbers go up a little bit.
Okay, cool. I don't really have anything much to say left to say about the sales and stuff. I just wanted to just kind of sort of throw it out there. It's a little telling. I'm gonna just sort of like put my little spin on it and say that you know maybe we could have gotten a Switch Pro by now. You know what I mean? Like it's just sort of like or a sequel. Like I don't know. It just seems like the Switch is sort of like feeling like it's long in the tooth. You know what I mean? And I think these sales sort of bear it out. But you're right. There aren't any S tier like marketing blitz games that are, lighting the charts on fire. So who knows? Maybe Metroid Dread, or was it? Yeah, is it Dread? Yeah, Metroid Dread can just sort of like reignite that spark that Nintendo is hoping for. All right. Next up is how one game's delisting pokes a hole in the Xbox Game Pass promise. And let's see here. This comes from Ars Technica, and it says this time around the usual licenses expired. Let me take a look at this. What is this? Am I on the right path here, or did I pull up an article too soon?
Yeah, just
Okay. All right. Here we go. It says Microsoft has long boasted about the backwards compatibility of its Xbox consoles, letting you play hundreds of past gen games on newer systems like the Series X and S. But the game publisher and the console maker is quieter about taking older games down from its digital storefronts. And this week's latest casualty is in the form of a popular first party game. It presents a problem for Xbox's recent sales pitch. On paper, the basic announcement may look humdrum to savvy modern game fans, stating starting September 15th, 2021, the sim racing game Forza Motorsport 7 will no longer be available on Xbox's digital download shops. That date marks roughly 4 years past the game's 2017 launch on Xbox One console, and 4 years is key since the Xbox Live download store has been in operation. Other Forza games, both in Motorsport and Horizon camps, have been delisted at nearly identical cadences. This suggests that the game's car license factor into cutoff dates. So look closely enough at major licenses in classic video games, and you'll see a similar trend. Arguably, the most prominent early example came when Nintendo began reprinting copies of its 1987 sports action classic Punch Out in 1990 without re upping its original license with Mike Tyson. And it's not uncommon to see publishers either strip licenses from older games or give up on them altogether. For most of the modern gaming industry's history, 4-year-old games have usually been relegated to bargain bins, especially if they receive regular sequels, so such a licensing term doesn't seem egregious. Interesting. Damn. Those bastards. Dan, I'm sure you have something to say about this.
Okay, so number one, I want to bring up. I texted you this, but I don't think you saw it. If you can turn off your video on Zencaster, I think that might help us be a little bit more closer in sync because my internet is really struggling right now.
Okay.
And I think with less data coming in, maybe that will help. I don't know, might be worth a try. So I think this article is interesting, and I try to pick articles that could, as I do. Um, because we talk about the digital future a lot and what that can mean for games. We talk a lot about the listing and platforms, and we talk a lot about apps. But I just kind of started having this thought process of like how all of those factors come in together, and I think this game right now is an interesting representation of that. Forza Motorsport 7 is still the latest game in the Forza Motorsport series. And we just learned recently that in a month from now, that game will no longer be available on Xbox Game Pass. That game will no longer be available on Xbox Store to purchase. Um, and generally, obviously, we already knew the game was not going to be updated anymore. But the game is basically being completely discontinued. I'm guessing the only way you're going to be able to play this game after September 15, 2021 is if you own a physical copy, and even then, there's a chance that in a matter of time, maybe like they start turning off servers and features, and you can't even play it. So I just wanted to bring because I have the extra here of thinking about Xbox Game Pass. If we do move into games are releasing directly into Game Pass, apps games are even releasing Game Pass. Does this also mean we're going to see like games like just kind of disappearing is going to become even more of a recurring theme in the future, right? Like especially in the situation where you're subscribing to Game Pass, you don't even own the games; they're available there. You download them, you play them, and stuff. Is it going to become a common thing that these some? I think that's kind of where. I,
Okay. Yeah, I gotta say that it is. You do bring up some good points about that. About whenever whenever your games come out directly to Game Pass, and let's just say there wasn't a physical copy, then it kind of does seems like Microsoft just has the power just to Microsoft just has the power just to yeet anything out at any time. But yeah, I just got to say that it is kind of interesting that it is a first party game, and it just sucks that Microsoft doesn't have control over their licenses like that. I guess you can't just sort of have a game that's just in perpetuity. Just it is what it is. But yeah, I don't know. I it is an interesting point that the article is bringing up about how there is this big push for like backwards compatibility. So yeah, I don't know what else to say about that.
Yeah, I will also like there is it is potentially a little bit of an exception as well because of the it is a car game and car licenses work very specific ways. So maybe creating too much of a maybe it's not enough to really get too worried about it, but it is interesting to keep an eye on. I will definitely be going out and trying to find a physical copy of Forza 7 so that I can have it since it's going to be delisted everywhere.
All right, cool, cool, cool. We'll go ahead and move on to the next bit. PSVR 2. Yeah. All right. Sony reportedly wants to focus on console quality AAA games for PlayStation VR 2. The new PSVR 2 headset and controller details are said to have leaked from a developer conference. Interesting. YouTube channel PSVR Without Parole reports that a Sony held a 90-minute behind closed door developers summit for potential PSVR 2 developers earlier this week, and Upload VR later claimed to have verified that the event took place. Sony is reportedly keen to move away from VR experiences and focus on console quality AAA titles via a new hybrid model for PS5 games. This would see major releases come with an optional VR support in a similar fashion to Hitman 3 and No Man's Sky. When games launch, Sony wants players to be able to download either the regular or the PSVR version or the VR version. It also reported that there will be a big push towards remastering original PSVR games for PSVR 2. Sony is said to have detailed various specs for the new PSVR headset, which is a codename NGVR or Next Gen VR, including a previously leaked resolution of 4000 by 2080 pixels or 2000 by 2040 per eye. Now that is sexy. PSVR Without Parole also claims that the headset uses a Fresnel OLED display that has a field of view of 110 degrees, which is 10 degrees more than the original PSVR and 20 degrees more than the Quest 2. So, I am very this is some very good news, and it's sort of interesting that that Sony wants developers to put their games out twice over. So it's like when I think of like Resident Evil 7 and how it had a VR version built into it, that actually kind of sort of makes sense in the sense that if you can sort of work that in and bake it in, then you can just have you know two games in one, and you just sort of play it how you want to play it. You download it. If you want to play it in VR, just put the headset on. If you want to play it on TV, there it is. You just do what you want to do. And I think that that's a very good value proposition that would make consumers be more easily accepting and easily wanting to adopt this.
It's interesting how the industry has kind of gone a different direction than I used to anticipate that it would go on. I remember in like in the past, I had this vision of the industry and different platforms, especially when thinking about mobile and other stuff. Where to me, I would look at things like VR, mobile, console, PC, and I looked at it kind of like PC games should be built to take advantage of like PC input and features and play best on PC and be set up to be great PC games. And console games should be developed with a different type of design, and mobile games should focus on like what can we do in mobile that we can't as easily do in other places, and how can we make this simple and how can we make this accessible. And VR games have to be built with a whole different design altogether. I kind of looked at like each different platform as like each different platform has their pros and cons, and we should develop take different form. That I thought the industry would go. In fact, I remember talking in 2013 with a friend about this idea that I had that I like the future of the industry. You download a game like on your console, for instance, and then you have like a app on your phone that connects to that game in some way, but that is like completely different and stuff, and like they can all kind of connect with each other and all that stuff. And instead, we seem to be going in a direction where it's less about making the right game for the platform, and it's more about making the game and putting it in every platform you can imagine, bringing it to all the audiences on all the different platforms that are out there, having a game that can be on PSVR as well as PC, as well as PS5, as well as Xbox One, as well as Series X, as well as Switch, as well as maybe mobile and all of that stuff together. So it's interesting. I don't think there's necessarily anything bad with it, but I do think that especially with something like VR that is so different, I don't know if like the strategy of like games that are cross like VR and console, where right like where the VR mode is like another option to play the same game. I don't know if that's really how we get the best VR games. Does that make any sense?
I get what you're saying, and so here's the thing. One of the things about PSVR is like, as far as like support sort of just took a nosedive like immediately within how do I put this, like basically like we're not getting games that that came out like the gold mine, the rush is over, and like PSVR is sort of like old hat. And like I think the only like game of note that came out even recently was like Iron Man VR, and that's about it. And I just wanted to say, like, as I like the idea that Sony is going with, because it's sort of just utilizing, what's already being put out there. You're just sitting down developers and partners and stuff like that, and just telling them to just put that little extra effort in, and then it'll pay dividends, for them and for Sony. So you're right. There is something to say about VR. It's its own thing, and there's definitely its own advantages about like immersion and stuff like that. But like I guess as a my first go to was Resident Evil 7, and if Resident Evil 7 can do it, anyone else can do it. That's just like my sort of takeaway on it.
All right.
All right. So this next article is a bit of an extra news. I'm pretty sure you have something to say about this, but Niantic is ending the Pokemon Go pandemic gameplay bonuses just as COVID cases are on the rise. So fans are not happy, and just to sort of give you guys a TLDR, during the pandemic, uh, Niantic updated Pokemon Go to like basically you can like do gyms and get Pokeballs and items and all this other stuff, from the comfort of your own home, and like make it easier to get your grind on, and so that way you can um, uh, socially distance. And now they're taking all of those things back, just as like the Delta variant is being a thing, and people. This article says that even fans are like saying that they may vow to quit the game. So yeah, I mean, I'm gonna say it just as my 2 cents. It it these were always temporary, just like whenever like my job sent me home to work from home, they said this is temporary. You're gonna come back. As much as I was happy with working from home, I can't act. I can't do my surprise Pikachu face when they say it's time for you to come back. So uh, like how I did there. But yeah, so I guess when people get used to a certain like new things and stuff like that, they get used to it, they get acclimated to it. It's like whenever you put a console out on sale, and you're like, for the holidays we're gonna slash the price $50 down, but January 1st comes, the price is coming back up. You know what I mean? Like sometimes that never usually goes well. So yeah.
But it's interesting though, because with this pandemic, I feel like there's been two narratives. There's well, in many different ways, but the way that I'm thinking, new normal in quotes, like this, as we start different and being forced to, people are gonna use lifestyle, different services, different choices, and that would lead to things just being different permanently. The thing that is interesting with Pokemon Go is they made all those changes, and they now have been running the game with all those changes and having people play the game that way for over a year. So I can't help but look at this and think, like, did you really need to change it back? And did you really need to change it back now? It seems like an odd choice to me. I feel like, do they think, are they, we also need to look at this from a capitalistic perspective as well. Like, do they think that people are spending less money in the game because they're staying at home somehow? Do they think that making people go out, like a company pursues money most
Yeah.
of the time? So, like, is there any kind of connection between the way that people play the game and the money that they're making from it? You got to assume there's got to be something, because otherwise it just feels like a weird moment to do it. It would have made sense for them to have done it maybe like a few months ago, once everything started to reopen. But now we're in a different situation where, despite the fact that everything is reopened, cases have gone up and some of the restrictions have been coming back, especially in places like California. I don't know if it's the same in Texas, Louis. We haven't really talked about this, but in California, there are some restrictions that are coming back because of the rising of cases amongst the people that have not taken the vaccine.
Yeah, no, it's this kind of similar here. They haven't. The only thing that we have done, like restriction wise, is they're making us wear masks again, like vaccinated or not.
Mm-hmm.
But no, I have been seeing the Texas numbers, especially in my area. The cases are like actually really, really high, and it's like we're like a hotbed because people are not
Mm-hmm.
socially distancing. There's a lot of interaction with each other. People are living their lives as like normal, and so we're seeing the fallout from this. And so yeah, it's sort of a situation just like I'm sure Niantic didn't, plan. I'm sure like whatever coding they needed to do to like push out an update to revert the changes, they've been working on it for months, months before
Yeah, that's
this.
fair too.
So I'm sure that, there's may have been a situation where like, just as, we've been seeing like, movie box office numbers are going up and everything is trending upwards and restrictions are being lifted, everyone was like sort of making their plans. So,
Mm-hmm.
that's just a fair point. I know I'm not usually the kind of guy that would like go to bat for a big company, but whatever. I guess I have no skin in the game, so I don't care.
No, that's a fair point. I just have a feeling that that the response might lead to them just having to revert everything again. So we'll see what happens there.
All right, we'll keep an eye on that and move on. Moving on, construction has started on Nintendo's Donkey Kong theme park world. So, but Nintendo World Japan's DK expansion is still hasn't been announced. So, this isn't like the worst kept secret. Like everyone knows that there's going to be a Donkey Kong land built within, Super Nintendo World. So, yeah, not surprised. And this is like a hybrid extra news hybrid. Check this out, but where you can see like some like aerial pictures from like afar of them making it. I honestly hope that there's like a minecart level from like Donkey Kong Country, like
It kind of looks like it. Like if you look towards like there is like a trail. What is it called? Like the thing that the train goes in. I can't remember. But like you can see like on the right side, and then it goes back. Like it looks like it goes through the temple on the back, and then it comes off the other side. So there is a minecart thing going on there for sure. This looks pretty cool, dude. I'm so excited for these parks. I won't be probably experiencing them in Japan anytime soon, but possibly whenever they open those in America, because they are working on this stuff in Orlando, I believe. I'll be very excited to go to them. I have not been excited to go to a theme park type thing for a long time, but I feel like this will get me to really want to go.
ditto. All right, and the final bit of top news is actually wait. That was the last bit of top news, actually. So let's actually move on to the extra news. All right. Holy shit. That is a lot. All right.
Have fun.
Ladies and gentlemen, we got a baker's dozen. There are 13 items on the list. All right,
Yes.
I'm sure Ready Press Play is going to get sued at some point, but in the meantime, I'll keep on saying it. Next, number one. A studio led by Elder Scrolls veterans has announced a new grand scale RPG, Wayward Realms. Number two, GPS app Waze has teamed up with Microsoft for a Halo themed takeover where Master Chief will give you driving directions in real life. Oh my god, that's so awesome. Number three, Take Two announced that GTA 5 has now shipped 150 million units. Jeez. And confirmed that they'll be announcing a new franchise later this month. Dang! Oh my God. That's going to be released before the end of the current fiscal year, March 2022. Ubisoft and Bungie have fought. Okay, number four. Ubisoft and Bungie have filed a joint lawsuit against Ring One, which advertises bundles of various cheats and hacks on its sites. Aw, that's no, that's no fun. Number five, Half-Life 2 Remastered Collection is coming from modders with Valve's consent. That's nice. Nice. Number six, Astrobot developer Team Asobi stated that in its new website that it's working on the studio's most ambitious game yet. Number seven, EB Games Canada is rebranding its stores to GameStop by the end of this year. That's really, I mean, they should have been done that, but whatever. Number eight, a new Xbox controller featuring an improved grip texture, tilted Aqua Shift is now available for pre-order, and it ships on August 31st. I've seen this. I've seen that image on Twitter. Oh my god, it is sexy. I'm just gonna pull it up right here on the. That is, I was like debating whether or not I should get this controller, by the way. Just throwing it out there. I was going to stick with four, my standard red, blue, white, and black, but this one, oh my God. All right. Number nine, Fulbright co founder Steve Gaynor, known for his work on Gone Home and Tacoma, has stepped down from his role as creative lead on Open Roads following multiple allegations of mistreating Fulbright employees, particularly women. Oh my God, no.
That one hurts.
That one hurts.
That one hurts, doesn't it?
Yeah, dude, he
Yeah.
seems such a
Yeah.
nice guy. I've seen him on Kind of Funny, right? So just, yeah, those, fuck. Okay,
Yeah.
number 10.
I gotta read more into it because I haven't seen the full extent of it. It doesn't seem like he was. We should be clear before we pile on the guy. Uh, the allegations against him specifically, it's not like he was sexually harassing anybody. He seemed to just kind of be a little bit of an asshole to work with, and he just kind of created a toxic work environment for the people he worked with. Those seem to be the allegations that I've seen. So I just kind of want to bring that up because I'm not saying that's cool because it's not, but it's also in a different level than, for instance, the people at Blizzard
Yeah.
that were straight up, harassing the employees and not giving women promotions and all the other crap that was going on there.
Okay. Fair enough. Okay. There are levels to these things, and oh my God, my heart sank. Number 10. 343 has issued a Halo Infinite spoiler warning after unintentionally including campaign files in the preview build that was made available this week. Aw. See, well, this is why we can't have nice things. All right. I just want to say, everyone always. What is that thing that they do where they like ROM dump and they like look through the source files? I forgot that thing that they
Yeah.
do whenever they decompile and stuff. There's a word I'm thinking of, but whatever. Number 11. Sony has released its financial results for its first quarter of the current fiscal year, noting an increase of PS5 shipments and the fact that the console is no longer selling at a loss. That's pretty fast, actually. Number 12, delays. Amazon Game Studios MMO New World has been delayed once again to September 28th. That game doesn't exist, in my opinion. Evil Dead, the game, has been delayed to 2022, and multiple reports suggest Horizon Forbidden West will also be coming in 2022. I thought that was officially delayed already to 2022. All right. Number 13,
Oh,
around.
it's Jason and Jeff Grubb are both like putting together all these reports of like multiple sources that are saying so. It is like the game is delayed to 2022, but Sony has not said that. That's the thing.
Ah,
It's like everybody in the industry is saying it except Sony. So that's why I wanted to clarify. And I do want to bring up with New World that it's getting delayed once again. This time just for a few weeks, I believe. But the interesting thing is that the game, and we brought this up on Extra News last week, that the game just had a major like beta thing that was going on or demo or something. And they had a huge peak of concurrent players on Steam. So there's a possibility here that this is the first hit from Amazon Game Studios. I'm really rooting for them. So I want to see them get some some good PR finally. But the funny story with that game too, and it's kind of sad because once again they're always getting these issues with it seems like they're never getting good PR, but that game was bricking some RTX 3080 graphics cards,
oh yeah, I remember that.
which that was a thing as well. Yeah.
Yes, I remember that. Okay. Number 13. This is a roundup. World War Z Aftermath is coming to PS4, PS5 on September 21st. Outer Wilds' first expansion called Echoes of the Eye is coming to PC, PS4, and Xbox on September 28th. Solar Ash is coming to PC and PS4 on October 26th. Wow, that is a lot of extra news to go for. Dan, what do you got?
I feel like the major comments that I wanted to make we already kind of made as we were going through it. But let me look at this stuff real quick. I don't use Waze. Like I am an avid GPS user. I use the GPS to go literally anywhere. And that's just my habit. I built it as a habit. I get anxious if I'm driving and I don't have the GPS on. But I do not use Waze. I use Google Maps. So now maybe I'm gonna try out Waze, which a lot of people in my family like to use actually, just to kind of see that interaction. Lewis, have you ever seen that app? By the way, have you ever seen Waze?
Yes, we've used it once. I think we were traveling like on a different country, and like they said that Waze was better at navigating than in the like. I always use like Google Maps in the U.S. So just
I feel like Waze has kind of like a hardcore fan base. Like the people that use it like really like it. Like my dad doesn't say GPS. He says Waze. He's like, oh, like are you like oh just put it on Waze. Like it's synonym with like GPS for him, and he thinks it's weird that I don't use it. And the funny thing is that Waze is a gamified GPS app because they have you can level up by using it. They have like these different classes, like you unlock things that you can use to like upgrade your character in the GPS thing and all that stuff.
of course,
And then they do all these partnerships and shit. So like this makes complete sense that they would go with like a partnership with Waze in this case. But then the other thing that I thought was the funniest on Waze was, and I found this out one time. I was driving with my dad, and he's is always using Waze, and then he suddenly takes a detour and drives like another road than he typically would, and then drives back. And the reason why he did it is because there was a collectible.
oh my
There was
god,
a collectible that he got on like the other road. So Waze does shit like that, which the thing that's so funny about it is to think that if you had a situation where you have a lot of traffic on a road because everybody's taking the same road, they could, and I don't know if they do this, but I'm just saying theoretically they could place these different collectibles so that they're intentionally make the cars take different paths so that they're each having less traffic on the way, right? So I don't know. I is a very interesting GPS app. So I wanted to give it a shout out, even though I personally don't use it.
interesting, interesting. The only other thing I wanted to talk about, and this wasn't even mentioned on the extra news, is the PlayStation financial results. I'm actually
Mm-hmm.
not, I'm kind of not really. I'm sort of actually surprised how quickly they changed it from not selling at a loss. So I mean, I thought that would have been a little bit more further way down. But there was a report that I was reading that says that PlayStation 5s are going to be easier to find sooner rather than later. So
Cool.
yeah, that'd be interesting to be able to like maybe by this holiday you can actually easily buy a PS5. So yeah,
We'll see about that. That would be nice. And yeah, it is pretty surprising that they're saying that the PS5 is already no longer being sold at a loss. I think that's honestly pretty surprising. unbelievable. Actually, I would have thought it taking much longer for that to happen.
Yeah, especially with like supply shortages, I'd have figured like people supply chains would have been like scalped or something like that, or even they have to even Sony has to pay like an upcharge. All right, Dan, I'm sure you're making your moves on the dock here, so I'm assuming that you want to skip check this out.
Yeah, I was gonna suggest that.
All right, I'll go ahead and just throw the show over to you. You can hit us up with the new releases.
What are you buying?
All right, so first, I'm just kind of gonna go through the new games coming out here. Although I am not reading any blurbs this week because I didn't prepare them, and also because there was no game that I like I wanted to highlight because I don't really know those games.
I agree.
But either way, we're gonna bring them up here on August 10th. We got Black Book coming out on PS4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC, as well as Godfall, previous PS5 exclusive, coming now to PS4. Then Law Mowing Simulator coming to Xbox Series X and S and PC. On August 11, we got Icarus coming out on PC and Seed of Life also coming out on PC. Then on August 12, we got three games: Art of Rally coming out on Xbox Series X and S, Xbox One, and Switch. Foreclosed coming out on PS5, Xbox Series, PS4, Xbox One, Switch, Stadia, and PC. And Naraka Blade Point coming out on PC. Now, we do have a lot of updates to live service type games that are happening this week or that just happened. And I'm going to bring up some of those. So, first, there's a Skyward Sword HD theme coming to Tetris 99 this weekend. And I just realized Lewis is probably pissed off about this. I'm going to go in opposite order, Lewis.
Okay,
I just remembered you pulled these things up on the screen.
that's your fine.
So yeah, you can, Tetris 90 adding these different themes, tie in different games, all promotion stuff. And then we got, like Zelda Skyward Sword in there right now. Fall Guys is celebrating its first anniversary. Time flies. We're getting a bunch of different, cosmetics, and they're bringing back the original stages from the first season of the game. Um, all I want to say about Fall Guys is that, and I know Lewis and I kind of have conflicting opinions on this. I think Fall Guys, I know it had that like very popular month or two, but I think Fall Guys deserved more attention than that. I wish this game had had the same level of long-term success that Among Us did.
Yeah, well,
Um,
even then, like, I don't even know if Among Us
then
has
we
that
got
long-term success, but I can sort of see why you would think that or whatever. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know how to explain it. I think maybe you're right, but I'm not. I'm not part of that. So, yeah.
fair enough, fair enough. I just had more fun playing Fall Guys than I did Among Us. I was just terrible at Among Us.
Well,
I
yeah.
just got, like whenever the few times that I was the imposter, I got caught immediately, and when I wasn't, I just got killed immediately. So
Also, by the way, I think didn't you get the crown in Fall Guys once, and I never did. So,
yes, yes,
yeah.
I got it at least once, maybe twice. Yeah.
Hmm.
Moving on here, Rainbow Six Siege Containment Mode, inspired by Extraction, is out now. So, in the expectation of Rainbow Six Extraction, which I believe we just talked recently got delayed, they just released an update to Rainbow Six Siege that is inspired by the new game. It's a new limited time mode that's being out as of August 4. A notable departure from the typical PvP action of Siege just helped to make up for any disappointment concerning the recent delay of Rainbow Six Extraction. So you got a reason to jump back into Siege if that's your jam while you wait for the next game. Then on Mario Golf Super Rush, we're getting the addition of a new character in Toadette, as well as New Donk City as a new level. Lewis, I can't remember. Were you playing Super Mario Golf? Is this something that you're excited about?
No, I have yet to even buy the game. Actually, to tell you the truth.
All right, so we got the tweet here from Nintendo UK. Mario Golf Super Rush scores a free update tomorrow. This already came out, I'm pretty sure. So new mode, ranked match, new character Toadette, new course, new Donk City, and improved motion controls. Look forward to more updates later this year. And finally, here we got a Back 4 Blood beta going on. Now there's a early access beta on this weekend between August 5 and August 9. 9th, which I believe is only for the people that have pre-ordered the game. But then there will be an open beta between August 12th and August 16th. Let me actually take a look at this real quick. There we go. For those that pre-ordered the game, the first wave of beta access commences on August 5 and will run until the 9th. The open beta will continue on following that early access period from August 12th through August 16. Interested players can go here to register for a shot at the first beta period as well, though entry for those dates is not guaranteed. Um, so you can look into that stuff if you're interested. I'm not sure if you must have pre-ordered the game to qualify for either of those betas or not, but maybe that could be the case.
So just want to throw this out there. Number one, the gameplay looks hella like Left 4 Dead, like straight up. Like you would think that I was just looking at Left 4 Dead remastered. That's number one. Number two, if you are on the Level One Gaming YouTube channel as you are watching us, Level One Gaming Fame did a stream of the beta uh, earlier today, day of recording, so you can go back and look at the VOD and see it. So you can watch some gameplay, see them hanging out. So yeah, just throwing it out there.
Awesome. And on that, Louis, we can move on to the next segment.
Got a selection of good things on sale, stranger.
So this might be one of the biggest broke gamers guides that we had so far. We got plenty of deals to run through today. We're gonna start with the free games at the App Store, as we typically do. The two games that are free now are Plague Tale Innocence, a game that was just free on PlayStation Plus as well, and the game Minute. Actually, I'm pretty sure the game Minute has been free before. I already own that game on the Epic Store. I don't know about a Plague Tale. Like I said, that was free on PS Plus last month. But both of those are good games as far as I know. Minute is this interesting indie game where you have a minute to play the game and then it resets. It's kind of this interesting twist on the roguelike style. And then a Plague Tale Innocence is kind of like a double A, like third person action adventure game. Very interesting. So I'm going to pull up the blurb for Minute here, actually, since we talked about Plague Tale not so long ago. Minute is a peculiar little adventure played 60 seconds at a time. Journey outside the comfort of your home to help unusual folk uncover countless secrets and overcome dangerous foes, all in hopes of lifting a rather unfortunate curse that ends each day after just 1 minute. Minute is a collaboration between Kitty Collies, John Willem Nijiman, and Jukio Koyo and Dominic Johan. So yeah, very interesting, unique indie game. It's all in black and white. It looks like it has a very minimalistic art style.
I'm just sort of beating myself up right now because I don't think I actually claimed ukulele last week. So I'm like, fuck.
Oh damn! I don't think I did either. Now that I'm thinking about it, I think you're right.
Yeah,
Oh damn!
I'm pissed. I'm
We also
pissed.
got new titles coming to. We also got new titles coming to Xbox Game Pass here on August 5th. We got Curse of the Gods, Dodgeball Academia, Katamari Damacy Reroll, Luminous Remastered. All four of those titles are coming out on cloud, console, and PC. And then we got Skate coming out on console only because it's being added to EA Play, as well as Skate 3 coming out on cloud. Starmancer is a game preview coming out on PC, but also on August 5th. Then on August 12th, we got Art of Rally. We mentioned that as one of the games that is coming out right now
New
on
releases.
new releases. Coming to cloud, console, and PC. ID at Xbox game. Let's read about this. Let's see what this is. Art of Rally is a stylized experience inspired by the golden era of rally from the creator of Absolute Drift. From beginner-friendly options to driving modes that will challenge the most expert drivers, race across the world through colorful and stylized environments, now including Kenya, with 4 new cars, 6 new tracks, and a new free roam area.
Interesting.
Cool beans. Hades is joining console and PC on August 13th. Microsoft Solitary Collection Premium Edition is coming to PC on August 17th. Now, the games that are leaving. Oh, got some big hitters here. On August 8th, Grand Theft Auto 5 is leaving Game Pass for cloud and console. And on August 15th, we got Ape Out leaving PC, Crossing Souls leaving PC, Darksiders Genesis leaving cloud, console, and PC, just like Down Serve, Final Fantasy VII is leaving console and PC, and Train Sim World 2020 is leaving cloud, console, and PC.
I gotta tell my nephew that GTA 5 is leaving because he's been playing the shit out of that game. But yeah, okay.
I wonder how often it happens that people are playing a game like that on Game Pass and then it leaves Game Pass and they go and buy it.
I can tell you that my nephew has fallen prey to that, but at least they do the good thing where they give you a discount when a game is like, I think he like bought like Batman, like Arkham, one of the Arkham games for like $5 because it was leaving. So
Hmm. Now we got 3 new games coming to PlayStation Now in the month of August, and those games are Nier Automata, Ghost Runner, and Undertale. So I don't know much about Ghost Runner, but Undertale and Nier Automata both, like generally considered big hitters here, coming to PlayStation Now. So I think it's good to bring this up because, as I always say, I don't think PlayStation Now gets as much credit as it probably deserves.
it could have been the Game Pass of the generation if it wanted, if they were better at it. But I think they're leaning more towards that now. But like at the time, you
Yeah,
just
yeah,
sort of had
totally.
like a bad launch.
Yeah, it's one they didn't make it now. Like they got to work like 3 times as hard to be able to revert that, and they're not. I don't feel like they're even working as hard, but they're doing something. They're up there. We're now going to go through a variety of different sales here across the storefronts. So first, Fanatical. I don't really use the storefront, but they basically sell Steam codes as well as codes to like other storefronts, I think. But they have a sale going on. It has a lot of different stuff here. Project Cars, I think, is one of the big deals on this one. It's just $4.93. As well as Yakuza Kiwami 2, $12.89. The Yakuza Remastered Collection is $22.50. Con Breakpoint is $27.59. Sleeping is 79. Deus Ex Mankind Divided mentioned earlier in the show, 419. Tomb Raider Game of the Year edition, $30. That one is not that great, but they got some good deals here if you're looking for
Yeah, I was gonna say
some
$30 for that game is a little high.
Steam games. You're not in the so might be. Yeah, yeah, I agree with that. It is the Game of the Year edition, but I agree with it. And then I want to give a shout out Medical. They have a uh, they have these like bundles, video games, but they also have development stuff. So they got a bunch of like build your own bundles for you know like like they got like coding and game development like book bundles as well as like all this other random stuff. I haven't looked too deeply into this. They also have like these build your own bundles, which I don't know work, but just wanted to mention that. Maybe want to check this out and see what's up with it. That is on Fanatical as well. Then we got this thing on I believe this is on GameStop deals right now. It's called a Game Thrill Big Game Box, a 30 game bundle for $19.99. So there are 30 games that you can get for just $10. There's the list of 30 games here. I'm not going to read the full list, but I'm gonna say the ones that are recognized that are included here. Dirt Rally, Guacamelee Super Turbo Championship Edition, Warhammer 40,000 Space Marine, F1 2018, Goat Simulator, and then 25 other games that I don't necessarily recognize. But just getting those 5 games that I mentioned for $10 seems like a pretty good deal. So I thought I would give it a shout out. We got a deal on the Xbox Series X 1 TB expansion card. This is typically $220, and now you can get it for $188 with the promo code EMCEYSB59 on Newegg. So once again, if you're looking to get this expansion card for the Xbox Series X, and you haven't gotten it yet because 220 was too steep, you can go to Newegg right now, find the Seagate 1 TB SSD for Xbox, and then use the code PSB59. We got that from GameSpot deals, just like some of the other stuff that we have in here that we're going through. Um, there's a new eShop sale on the Switch eShop. You probably have this pulled up, Lewis. Any deals here that you want to shout out that you think people should get on the eShop right now?
Okay, so let's see. I Okay, Snipper Clips is a good game, but it's only been marked down to for $6, $14. But that's a good game right there. I see Stardew Valley, that's been marked down to $10, and Stardew Valley is a game that you can play forever and never stop playing if you wanted to. Unravel 2, I've only played the first Unravel, and so I would imagine that Unravel 2 is better. So it's marked down at $10. I see a lot of like also rans and stuff like that, like Mario Tennis Aces for $42, Splatoon 2 for $48, and yeah, those are nice. Those are nice to haves. Also, oh look, Super Mario Party, $42. Nice.
Yep. We also got Mortal Kombat 11 here for $15. Wargroove is a game that it's in the very back of my head, one of those backlog games that I like forget about, but that I do want to play eventually because it's basically a Fire Emblem like that I heard really good things about, and that one is just $10 right now. So yeah, generally lots of good deals there if you want to check out and get some new stuff on your Switch. And then we got one more link here, and then one more thing I want to mention. So we got a sale of video game books on Amazon right now. This includes things such as The Art of Cuphead, Ghost of Tsushima, Mass Effect Trilogy. There's some Final Fantasy encyclopedias. There's all the Legend of Zelda books that I actually you might be able to see over here in the back. I own 3 of them. But there's some others. I might go and look into buying some of the other ones that they have in here, as well as the Super Mario Encyclopedia, the Kingdom Hearts Ultimate Mania. So basically, if you thought about getting one of those, like, hardcover video game, books and now might be the time to look into that because they have
Yeah, dude, I think I
final
might.
shout
I
out
think I might actually
with
buy
no
one of these
link.
encyclopedias because I have.
There's a deal going on. Sorry.
Oh, I have a couple of these books already, so I might want to finish out the collection with those Zelda books. They're really good bookshelf pieces.
Yeah, 100%. I agree with that. They also have beautiful art. All right, for my final shout out here, you can get right now. There's a deal going on at GameStop. You can get 5 own games that are typically $20, $50. And the reason why I want this as a shout out is because I am somebody that has recently gotten into buying older-ish games to try to collect them. And sometimes it's really hard to find deals for certain games, meaning, if this game is worth like $20, that's what it's worth. That's price you're gonna see it for pretty much anywhere that you look at it. If you go to GameStop, it might be more expensive than that. If you go to other places, eBay, like games have like older games, they kind of generally they'll fluctuate in price. Eventually, they kind of end up sitting on a price for a while, and then things will either push them up or down, depending on what's going on. But my point is, like, if you're eyeing some games that you want to buy for your collection, this kind of deal is the perfect deal for you to get them for cheap because it's like the deal is not per game. The deal is you get 5 pre-owned games and then $50 total. So if you can find 5 games at GameStop for $20 that are worth $20, that cost $20 on eBay, that cost $20 on your local video game store and everywhere else you look at it, you can basically get them each for 10. And I used that strategy before to get games for my collection and ended up saving money that way. So just
Same,
wanted to give it a shout out to that one. Yeah,
same here. I definitely
and that's
do
it, Lewis.
like to finagle that way, and yeah, just we'll go ahead and end the show here, and that's a very hard. This is like the hardiest deals section we've ever done in a while, and it just sucks that we were having connection issues while doing the segment and stuff like that, or doing the show. But, anyways, I'll go ahead and sign us out. it's time to end. Thank you so much for joining us for another episode of Ready Press Play. Remember, you can reach the podcast at ReadyPlayNetwork.com or simply at Ready Press Play on Twitter or TikTok. I'm on Twitter at Chakalaka88. And Dan.
At the Dan Lima.
Don't forget to subscribe, give us a review, tell your friends about the show, and all that good stuff. See you next time.
Bye-bye.